the Montauk Project. This was a project that took place in Long Island, New York, and was supposedly a lab for developing a psychological warfare weapon. The facility that they used is actually a small, old, abandoned, rundown lab that nobody ever used, and the theories have it, the records have it, that this actually went underground and separated into different tunnels under the city. And the workers at this facility were leftovers from the Philadelphia Experiment. Now, the Philadelphia Experiment took place in 1943, and what this was a U.S. naval ship, the USS Eldridge, that was actually made invisible by a certain experimentation, and the results of this were stunning. The electromagnetic bottle was actually able to completely hide the USS Eldridge and make it 100% invisible, but it came with some cost. The electromagnetic bottle actually had some psychological issues that would happen if people were too close to it, and that aspect to it was definitely taken over when they changed this to the Montauk or the Phoenix Experiment. Now this right here is the Black Ops 1 Nacht Der Untoten loading screen. This is when you have the DLC 4-pack, and when you load up Nacht Der Untoten, you get this loading screen that isn't on the original World at War version. Now this confused the community, and we don't know exactly what is happening in this picture or what it's trying to represent, but we can actually take some context clues using this experimentation knowledge that we have from these different things that have happened, and we can kind of piece together what is going on here. We see what looks like one person walking through a portal in 1943, which just happens to be the exact year that the Philadelphia Experiment was supposed to take place in, and he ends up in 1964 in just a room by himself. The tests that this facility performed were very inhumane, as they were supposed to capture children and elderly and homeless people off the streets and test them with electromagnetic radiation to see if they could break their minds in order to control their mind and reprogram them to what they want them to do. Not only did they test on other people in order to control minds, but they also worked in the field of teleportation through time and space. Stories and theorists have it that the actual experimenters of this program of the time and space teleporters were actually able to come in contact with an extraterrestrial life form or aliens, and they compare this to the Vril-Ya race. There are no documentation or any photos to suggest that these programmers were actually able to come in contact with the Vril. There are only stories and theories of people who have been behind the scenes and during the place at the time. While there were a lot of side experiments going on at the Montauk base, such as the teleportation of time and space, the main function here at this particular facility was in fact the mind control and the psychological effects thereof. There are documents and theories to suggest that the people who were actually tested on during these mind control experiments were actually runaway boys who didn't have a home, or somebody who was not a very valuable piece to society. So they would take these people and they would torture them both mentally and physically. Once said test subjects had been broken down, their minds had been reprogrammed. Sleeper cells were injected into these test subjects in order to carry out any orders at the touch of a single button. It is also documented that many of these boys had been killed during the process of the mental and physical breakdown. Now, another person who had worked on this facility is the one and only Nikola Tesla, and yes, this is the one who is responsible for the Tesla coils and the Tesla array in Der Eisendrache. However, Nikola's experiments went farther than just that. The majority of his experiments were during a mass psychological procedure where they would use subliminal messages to try to sway somebody's judgment without them actually knowing it, in order to thus further the mind control experimentations. Tesla also believed that his experiments could stop the effects of aging, and a little bit later on he ended up faking his own death. If you visit the facility today, all the experimentations are locked up behind concrete sealed doors. Nobody has gone into them as of yet, and they still have yet to be discovered what's behind them. But behind these concrete doors are thought to be where the psychological experiments had taken place. The scientists at the Montauk facility thought that they could control minds and also travel through space and time. Now, you didn't think that the Nacht Der Untoten loading screen could explain so much, did you? But it still leaves the question unanswered: who is this mysterious man on the left side? Could this be Nikola Tesla, or could this be somebody such as Dr. Monty? This picture has existed for 6 years, and it's something in the zombie storyline that we may never get an answer to.